Good evening, everybody. It is Steve with Real Progressives. I am going to try my best to go live on both YouTube and Facebook. So if this fails, forgive me. In the meantime, let me just say this. Today has been an interesting day. Obviously, John McCain, a guy who has fought hard against corporate cash in election. Got to close out. Oh, no, it's back. I don't understand this, but that's okay. Anyway, I'm going to try my best to start this over again. I think that this format is going to make it difficult with doing the both YouTube and Facebook. So I'm going to try again, guys. Forgive me. I'll be right back. Oh, no, I won't. I'll just go ahead and go with it. All right. So given the fact that we've got a situation with John McCain out there, it kind of brings to focus, for me anyway, what it is that we're up against, right? Every time a national event happens, every time some candidate gets sick, every time, we've got some sort of a distraction in the media, every time there's a Twitter war, every time some third-rate media group decides to fight with another fourth-rate media group, it makes the news. Every time we sit there and watch these fake elections go on, both party-based elections and, around the world, we get wrapped around the axle. Folks, I'm telling you right now, I'm begging you, I'm pleading with you. I don't follow politics because I'm bored. I don't follow any of this stuff because I'm bored. I follow it because, quite frankly, if we don't fight for the things that we need in our lives, we don't fight for the life-saving programs and life-saving legislation that we need as a people, no one's going to do it for us. And it has been time after time I watch. And I used to do it too, just so we're on the same page. I don't want anybody to confuse me as like lifting myself in some sort of an elevated fashion here. But for years and years and years, I just didn't get it. I would allow myself to get caught up in whatever the flavor of the day was. I'd be drug around by the nose by whatever the news cycle was. Whatever they were going to spit out the door that day is what I was going to focus on. And it took a long time for me to get my arms wrapped around what it is that I really wanted. A lot of times I voted and I just kept thinking, I just don't want it to be the Republican or I just don't want it to be the Democrat. I didn't think about what it was that I actually wanted. What is it that I really want? And, obviously, as time went on, I started reforming that identity. I started thinking about what exactly it was as a father, and as a person that has learned so much over the years. What is it that I really value? And it's not just a party name. It's not buzzwords. It's action. It's life-saving action. And we've been sidelined for so long. We've allowed ourselves to be put to the curb for so long. And all you see is folks focusing on, we focus on jail the banksters. Probably an important thing, not necessarily the first important thing. We want to tear down the system. Hey, you know what? If you don't like the system, there's a process. We can change it. We can. But the reality is that we have stuff right here in our midst, things that we can do today that we've allowed to slip away. And then we want to make sure everybody feels like all ideas are equal. But the reality is we don't have to start from scratch. We don't have to start from scratch. We have literally witnessed a platform come together that everyone loved. We don't have to redesign the platform. We don't have to redesign what it is that we've been asking for. Folks, we have the opportunity to bring about a New Deal in America. Not just a Green New Deal or a Bernie Sanders New Deal, but whatever New Deal it is that we want. And there are some already in place things that we all know and we all agree on. And yet, it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of effort to get folks wrapped around it. And you know, when you think about a New Deal, so much of our justice system is founded on locking up the poor. Poor people have been locked up for as long as I can remember, because quite frankly, they were not the desirable ones. They were people that people were looking at and were saying, hey man, I don't like the way they look. I don't like the way they talk. I don't like the way they whatever. And the reality is that if we were able to provide economic justice at the ground level, if we were able to provide health care, mental health care, if we were able to provide education, so much justice would take care of itself on so many levels. It doesn't mean it's a be-all, end-all. It's not a panacea. But there's a lot of stuff that would be done just that. Folks, we can't even get people to understand how we can pay for it. We can't even get people to stay in the now to focus on a very, very large New Deal. We can't get people in any way, shape, or form motivated to do what needs to be done. They're steady running off, following different personalities, following people that, quite frankly, aren't really telling you anything that's going to save their lives. It's almost like pop culture revolutionaries. They're not really listening to what we have to do to win. And what do you define as winning? I don't care if it's we ripped out our economic system, we ripped it out and we implemented some sort of socialism and we did this and we did that. Folks, the problem with so many socialists today is they don't understand state currency. They don't understand a state monopoly currency. And so therefore, because they don't understand that, because it wasn't written by Marx didn't know about state currency like this. He just understood capital, right? And so he gave a critique of capitalism. These folks don't understand. They do not understand that money doesn't come from the wealthy. So they get sidetracked and they get caught up in this stuff. And folks, every time they do that, you're that much further away from a New Deal. You're that much further away from Medicare for all. You're that much farther away from free college for all. You're that much further away from paid family and medical leave. You're that much further away from green energy. You're that much further away from infrastructure. You're that much further away from severe investments in green energy to save our planet. Every time someone thinks that we've got to have this war, rip the system down, and you look at your clock and you look at icebergs melting away, and you say, what the hell are you talking about? What is it exactly you're talking about? How do we get there if you're going to continue to rip down this thing? Now, let's say we rip it down. God knows we burn it down. We burn it to the fucking ground. Now how much time does it take to institute something useful? The system itself is incredibly misunderstood. There are a lot of abuses built into the system that can be legislated away. But what can't be legislated away is the fact that we have a state currency and people still believe that our government that creates its currency requires an income. And so therefore they don't think big, they think small. Well, maybe $15 an hour would be a nice thing. Maybe $15 an hour would get it done. You talk to the people that really need to survive and take care of a family. And you ask them whether $15 an hour is actually doing anything for them. Folks, we need a living wage. Not just a pat on the back, hey, aren't we so good that we fought for 15? We need a living wage. are you getting there if you're tearing the system down? I'm just spitballing with you. First of all, I don't want to do that because there's more of them than there are of you. So that said, how are you getting any of these things that people need to survive? How are you getting there by burning the whole freaking thing down? Seriously, I'm asking a question that nobody will answer me. They never frickin' answer the goddamn question, and I'm not willing to sacrifice my children so that they have whatever it is that they want because they can't envision anything other than the way it was written up in the 1800s or whatever. I mean, this is a problem for our movement. This is a problem for our movement. People want to tear it down and they don't understand what we have today. They just know it's not working for them. So rather than learn, they just shut their ears down and they go to pitchforks and fists in the air and they're sidelined. They're basically sidelined. They've lost the battle before it got started and they have checked out. And this is a real problem. It's a real problem for our movement because too many of us skip past things that we don't understand. We don't take the time to learn this stuff. Folks, I'm going to keep talking about a New Deal. I'm going to keep talking about it until I hear Lee Camp talk about it. I don't ever hear Lee Camp talk about empowering a New Deal and fighting for a New Deal and getting people in the streets for a New Deal. Hell, I hear Jimmy Dore talk more about worrying about a petrodollar than I hear Jimmy Dore actually talking about fighting for a New Deal in America. It was like as soon as Bernie got off the campaign trail, they stopped talking about any of this stuff. And now all of a sudden, all you hear about is Iceland jailed the banksters. You never hear him interview Stephanie Kelton, but you'll hear him pull out Richard Wolff. Richard fucking Wolff. You'll hear him come on there, but you won't hear them go after Stephanie Kelton. Why is that? Why is that? Why can't Lee Camp and people like him that claim to be part of this movement, why don't they actually go out there and get people like Stephanie Kelton and L. Randall Wray? They're accessible, folks. These people are accessible. They're willing to talk. They're willing to help us get a New Deal. They're willing to get us a federal job guarantee so no one is involuntarily unemployed. But they won't even interview. They won't even interview them. Why is that? Why is that Bernie Sanders, chief economist, who is now one of the senior founding fellows at the Sanders Institute, why is it that they cannot get 5 minutes of airtime on RT's Lee Camp show? I don't understand it. I don't understand. Lee, if you don't want to put me on your show, I don't care. But why not get Stephanie Kelton? If you don't think what I have to say has merit, why don't you ask Stephanie Kelton to do it? We need a large audience. We need people fighting for a New Deal. And they're not. They're busy talking about the Rothschilds and other nonsense instead of fighting for this. And it takes years to build the momentum to make something massive like this happen. Years. And our alt media is busy chasing around nonsensical stories. Jimmy Dore, of course, knows who Stephanie Kelton is. We need Jimmy Dore to step up and stop this other stuff and get Stephanie Kelton on his program. Alan Smithy, a.k.a. Actual Flaticus on Twitter, actually went on a tweet storm finally talking about modern monetary theory. Do you know how excited I was to see someone like that finally taking the ball? I went out there and helped him on his tweets. I have no idea if anybody gave a shit. Isn't that a shame? That's a shame. This is how sidelined our movement wants to talk about bullshit, but it will not bring on these people that are actively fighting to make our lives better. You know? Tom Hartman used to talk about MMT. What's his name? Kyle has done MMT before too. There's a host of these folks. Sater did MMT. Okay? Folks, they have Stephanie Kelton at the top of the food chain. They claim to love Bernie Sanders, yet they refuse to learn anything about the underlying economics that fuel his entire program. Man put up $33 trillion in new spending, offset by $19 trillion in taxes. Somebody tell me how that's not a deep understanding of MMT, even though he didn't say it, because so many people out there somehow or another think that those dollars coming in from the government that issues them, somehow or another, those taxes are paying for something. It's preposterous. It's preposterous. It defies logic. A government like Japan, China, Russia, Australia, the UK, Canada, all of them, the same exact thing. Their federal taxes do not fund a nickel of spending. They're deleted when they're received. And way back when, even before the Federal Reserve was in place, when a dollar was spent, those things, those IOUs were burned in the backyard. They were taken by wheelbarrow and burned. And here we are today. We're in a keystroke environment, and they are deleted. They're X'd off the freaking balance sheet. And yet, everybody wants to be clever. Well, I don't quite understand that. Of course, taxes are the cost of doing business in civilized society. And they just don't accept it because they have been so busy fighting this stupid war instead of fighting for single payer, instead of fighting for any of the things that I've laid out, that Bernie laid out or Jill laid out. I mean, student debt relief, my God. Here's a situation where Congress could seriously act. Now, mind you, Congress is not going to act. First of all, not because they couldn't act, but because the people are too steeped in conspiracies, too steeped in chasing after Russia, too steeped in wearing pussy hats to ask for Trump's tax returns, too steeped in nonsense to actually go after this and collaborate and come together and say, you know what? I'm done with your narrative. I'm done with your stories. I'm done with your bullshit news hour of the day. Folks, I want my kids to live. I want a Green New Deal. I want a New Deal. I want the Bernie Sanders platform, and I want it now. But we don't do that. And people are ready to throw in the towel, but they've never even tried it. They've never even bonded and taken to the streets over this. Instead of actually going out and uniting around this, they would rather instead fight about Donald Trump's fucking tax returns. Kid you not. I'm not joking. Folks, you want to throw in the towel, but the only kind of protest you've done, resistance, is Trump's fucking tax returns. This is why I have to be a broken, clock. I have to beat the drum. I have to do it over and over and over again. Because if I want to go ahead and get the pussy hats out there to actually fight for people's lives, we got to make it pop culture. We got to get some jackass that, like Michael Moore or one of these other fools to go out there and say, yeah, let's do this. And then they'll follow. Maybe we get Ellen. Maybe we get Oprah. That's how bad it is. But the problem is that Oprah is a wealthy woman. She likes being God. So she sits there and she spends her money for all the adulation and all the worship me, as opposed to our government doing its job. This is the definition of neoliberalism. We force the wealthy to be gods, and then we restrict the money flow so that we're begging the rich, please perchance spend some money on us. But that's not how it works. And we keep complaining over and over again. The same freaking story over and over again. I don't know what more to say, folks. I'm going to keep saying it, but I guess I'm trying my best to find new and improved ways of saying the same thing so that people understand. The vote blue sycophants, they don't give a shit about anything but vote blue. They'll fall right in line for whatever sack of crap they throw up there, and they don't even need to know what she stands for. And then you look over there at the latest Democrat they're going to pop up. What is it, Kamala? Whatever, the latest thing that they're trying to shove up our ass. I mean, how many progressives do you know start saying, well, Elizabeth Warren's better than Hillary was. We got to get behind Thin Lizzy. We got to get behind her again. No. We got to get behind, some other person. None of them know this. None of them will even fight for us. And the problem is, let's be fair. How many of you are actually going to your congressperson? How many of you are actually fighting round the clock for this? Writing, taking over your airwaves, calling into radio shows, calling into Lee Camp, tweeting Jimmy Dore, tweeting Same Progressive, tweeting all these people, talking to them, demanding that they push for it. And go up the food chain. All the MSM crap. Get in their threads. How many of you are doing that? It's so hard to make anything happen if the people don't push for it. And if the people don't believe we deserve a New Deal, then you don't have to blame the establishment. The establishment is doing what the establishment does, and that is protect wealth, block us from any kind of success, and literally perpetuate neoliberalism. This has been going on a long time, folks. Happened in Europe. It has happened all over the world. Neoliberalism is alive and well, even though it should be dying. And many of us that claim to be progressive, claim to be woke, claim to be warriors, okay? When given this information to fight these people, to fight austerity, they will still say, but what about the debt? Well, God, Steve, what about the fucking debt? Ask Tim Black. Tim Black's heard this before. One of the very first times I ever really got a large audience before I got started in doing this was on Tim Black. And people heard that story. Folks, it's not about me. I could care less. If somebody wants to hear it from Stephanie Kelton, then they should invite her onto their shows. If they don't care about a Green New Deal or they don't care about a New Deal, and they're busy just going after whatever the hot trending topic of the day is, and they're not actually fighting for you and I and a New Deal, we can't expect anything. We're not going to get anything. It's one thing to expect the mainstream media to shut us down, but you would think the alternative media would be pounding on a New Deal and fighting tooth and nail to get us where we need to be. I'm not seeing it. Are you? Are you seeing any of our quote-unquote alternative media folks, my peers, the people that are a couple notches above? Are you seeing any of them talk about a New Deal and fighting for a New Deal? Or do you see them just continuously going with the news line of the day, whatever the trending stuff is? It's very, very hard to make a movement without people. If people don't want a New Deal, we will not have a New Deal. And you know what? It doesn't really matter about the voting. You do realize this, right? If we take to the streets, if we literally flood them with this stuff and put so much pressure on them that they have got to do what we say, that's how we win. You say you don't believe in elections? Okay, well then prove it. Let's go ahead and make this New Deal shit happen. If they're just there to try and keep us calm and quelled and with controlled opposition or whatever, fine. Let's go after them for this New Deal. Party be damned. We should have Greens. We should have independents. We should have progressive Democrats, burners, Democratic Socialists, all of them should be joining up, fighting tooth and nail, taking this to the streets, activating on it. But they're not. And then they bitch and complain that we're not teaching. We give link after link after link. You have to do a little homework. Is that too hard? Is revolution so hard you can't read a link? And then people bitch, well, you can't just say taxes don't fund spending and think you got a revolution. Well, you know what? People want bumper stickers, so we got to give them that too. Oh, I'm so sorry. Did that bumper sticker not work for you? Well, tell me about your bumper sticker. It's getting us a New Deal. Oh, you don't have one. That's right, because you don't talk about it. You talk about the Rothschilds. You talk about Soros. You talk about all this bullshit. You don't talk about organizing the people to force this to happen. You got to fight for this. You can't just, oh, please, perchance, have sweet love for me and give me what I need without me fighting for it. It's not going to work that way, folks. It's not going to work that way. I think we know this, but I think people are lazy. I think people are lazy. I think it's easier just to go on some person's wall, some popular Facebooker, throws out really cute fist in the air. Yeah. Go ahead and have a chat about it. Go ahead and bitch about somebody over there. It's no longer a green and now they're a Dem. Or I don't care about any of that, man. The people united will never be defeated. You walk down the street as a giant group of people that don't even know what party they are. It doesn't matter. And you demand the Republicans. You demand Donald Trump. You demand friggin' Nancy Pelosi. You demand Dianne Feinstein and Chuck Schumer. You demand that they act on your behalf. You don't care which say, oh, that's not my senator. I only speak to these people. You demand every last one of them be accountable for a New Deal. You demand every single one of them. I don't really care what the flavor of the day is. If I never hear another news article or news story, if I don't ever listen to another live stream, if I don't ever follow another alternative media personality or whatever, I will fight day in and day out for a New Deal. Folks, I've said it before, I'll say it again, lives are on the line. And if these alternative media people are not willing to fight and force the hand and stop letting these people guide us by the nose with their narrative and force the narrative by demanding a New Deal, we're never going to get one. I'm telling you, we'll never get one. It's so depressing to see people that say they're revolutionaries or progressives who get things done, not doing anything. You know, when I learned about modern monetary theory, I've told you many a times that I was a Republican. I learned this shit the hard way. I was definitely not interested in giving anybody any kind of benefits. I was definitely not interested in government intervention. I was definitely not interested. I was very much not interested in that. I thought the government was corrupt. It is. I thought that the government was giving away our tax dollars, our hard-earned tax dollars. I felt like people were getting over on the system. Then I learned. You can too. And so can other Republicans. And so can other Democrats. We don't need everybody. We just need a large enough mobility, large enough group to mobilize, to make them turn their phones off because they can't handle the switchboards, to make them shut their email down because they can't handle the inbox, to make them actually shake when they see a group of 20,000 people descending on their office or their town hall. 50,000, 100,000, a million. Identity politics has us running this way and that way, and nobody's pushing for this. A federal job guarantee is the anchor of a New Deal. The federal job guarantee helps people in horrible communities like Flint, Michigan, that have been left destitute and there's no work. The full offering of Medicare for all, paid family and medical leave, all the benefits that come with being a federal employee, setting the floor wage that all private sector and so forth offers have to meet or beat. That's good for the 99%, and that's good for poverty that ends forever in voluntary unemployment. Expand Social Security. Eliminate FICA taxes for the 99%. Folks, if not us, then who? Seriously, do you think it's just going to happen? You've got to take this seriously. I see so many people say, well, no, hold on. I've got this other key issue I'm more concerned with, folks. Police brutality is a real serious thing. I want to focus on that. It is serious. It's very serious. But do you know how much would change with a federal job guarantee? Do you know how much would change with Medicare for all for everyone? And I don't even think Medicare for all is good enough. Do you know how much would change if we had apprenticeships and we had job training and trade schools for free that were part of being a citizen? Do you know that if we understood the way our federal financing works and we actually demanded that they served us, that our lives would be radically better, so much better, you wouldn't know what to do with yourself. It's extremely frustrating for me to do this day in and day out and have people that have never bothered reading the links throw links up at me for marks. Hey, Steve, you don't understand socialism. You know what? I actually do. I studied this stuff. It's not like they're throwing something new at me. Modern monetary theory doesn't really hurt Marx, doesn't hurt socialists. It just shows you that you don't have to pick the money off the rich people. See, these mental obsessions with these sub-forms of culture ignore the reality of how a modern fiat economy works. And they've got all these things up their sleeve for why it won't work. But none of them are accurate. None of them are able to actually defeat a single MMT argument. None of them. None of them. But they'll throw those things at you like they got you cornered. They think they got you down and out. They don't understand money creation. So since they don't understand it, naturally there's got to be a conspiracy at the Fed. Oh, I don't understand that. There's got to be a conspiracy to it. We tell them how it works. They tell us we're wrong. We show them how it works. They tell us we're wrong. We bring experts on that know the shit inside and out. They say that we're wrong. And somebody says, well, you're awful mean to people that don't understand what you're talking about, Steve. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm never mean to people that are seeking answers. I'm only mean to those who come in full cup trying to tell us we're wrong and then try and throw us dumb links from like Global Research CA or Counterpunch. Oh my God, I read a Counterpunch article and now I know everything I ever need to know about the Federal Reserve. This is the stuff, folks. At some point in time, this movement either has to coalesce around saving lives and implementing a broad, sweeping, wonderful New Deal, or we got to stop faking like we got a movement. We got to stop faking it. You know, I saw somebody today, this is no joke, it's heartbreaking. Guess it was a couple months back, they were a Green Party person. They were running for office as a Green. A couple months later, they decided that they were draft Bernie. A couple weeks later, they decide that they're now Dem Enter. They think the answers are in parties, so they're bouncing around, hopping around, jumping around, fad to fad to fad. Fad to fad to fad. No one getting any closer to a Green New Deal. No one getting any closer to Medicare for all. No one getting any closer to saving the planet or saving our environment from ecological disaster. Mass extinctions. They don't care. Party, 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 party. But no, Green Enter, no, Dem Enter. No, we got to go outside and we got to do this. Folks, we know what the deal is. Fuck the parties. Seriously. I mean, join with everybody or fuck them. I don't care. You know this platform is what the deal is. And if you understand the economic truth that underrides it, we all unite and we walk down there hand in hand, Republicans with us. See, this is why this bullshit party stuff is just a setup for failure. Do we need a new party outside the system? Abso-frickin-lutely. Is that the life-saving measure we need? Hardly. You know, it could take years for these things to be ready to rock and roll, and I support every bit of that. I'm part of that movement. But there are things we can do right here, right now, and we're not doing them. We're giving ourselves get-out-of-jail-free cards. We're patting ourselves on the back that we went out there and protested Trump's tax returns. Do you know every time I see somebody post something that says Cheeto-Leany or the Orange Man or something like that, I throw up in my mouth a little bit because I realize that people are distracted and they're not actually fighting for a New Deal? Do you realize every single time I see people fight with us when we say to put a federal job guarantee in, I see the homeless people without a job and I get enraged at them for daring to even oppose that? So-called progressives. Do you know that there is so much work not being done today because of scarcity of pieces of paper and keystrokes? And there are people out there who buy that narrative, and so therefore they say, hey, jobs are all gone. There's no work. Because they keep thinking about the Industrial Revolution. They're still dating themselves back to the 1900s. And they're refusing to think of what a modern economy looks like, what modern workplace looks like, and serving the public purpose. I am just a dude. I'm just a guy that has a passion for trying to save some lives. I have a lot of children, and I'm driven to save their lives and make their lives worthy of their existence, to help them survive and thrive. What the hell is Cheeto-Leany posts doing for anyone? Why are we sitting there talking about this stuff? Do you not feel a little bit of shame in your heart when you see people get distracted? I do. I'm like, there's another one sidelined. There's another one out of the game. They think they're doing something, but they're doing absolutely nothing. They're sitting there in a bathroom screaming at the wall. That's it. Getting nothing done. Not a goddamn thing done. It will take a movement of people who understand this. And all this is, to keep it simple, the United States creates its own money and therefore can afford anything we want as long as there are the resources there to do it. Folks, we've got so many people that are underemployed, much less unemployed. So there's no issue of having people ready, willing, and able to do work. We have tons of completely unmet needs that are there for the taking, that our federal government and our state governments and our local governments could work together to create a federal job guarantee program to put every person that wants to work back to work. And it would immediately make the economy go boom. Immediately. Why won't it happen? Because people in our own movement don't care. They don't care. I'm not trying to be hard on Lee Camp. He's just a name that I know you guys know, so I'm using him. Why not H.A. Goodman, Nico House, Claudia, any of them? Why aren't they fighting for a job guarantee to end involuntary unemployment? Because they don't know. That's not what they're about. That's not what they're focused on. They're focused on current event cycles. They're focused on DNC stuff. It's all important, I guess, in its own way. But you remember one of the very few things that Bill Clinton said that was spot on? It's the economy, stupid. It is the economy. And that is exactly why we're suffering. Folks, if you had enough money, if you were able to have some savings set aside, you were able to take care of your family, you were able to take a day off when a child is sick and not have to worry about losing pay for a day. Imagine putting forth a bill that makes telework a requirement for companies if they want to be compliant with our new energy policy. Companies have to allow for teleworking. Lay off the building, not the people. We could be providing remote work to tons of people stranded in these Rust Belt areas that have been left destitute because the businesses left. Give them a freaking DSL modem, give them a phone, give them a computer. Let them log in, let them take calls. Let them do remote work. Help the local community do whatever. There's so much available, and we could provide companies incredible tax incentives to actually hire people. Think about this. I'm talking about living wage jobs, not garbage jobs. The one thing that unites everybody, no matter whether you're Republican, Democrat, Green, Libertarian even, is the economy. And it's the one thing that the 99% significantly outweigh the 1% on, in that we are left in the cold. We are fighting for crumbs amongst ourselves. You know, we punish people with fines. We make their lives hell by imposing more fines when they park wrong, when they, when they're late on a bill, we give them penalties, we tack on fees. There's all these things that we do that hurt the 99% because it's expensive being poor. It's expensive living paycheck to paycheck. And it's expensive to have a shock in the economy that you can't absorb. Most of us have nothing stored for a rainy day. Most of us can't afford any kind of disruption to our income at all. They tell you to have 3 to 6 months. One week of stuff lined up. Not 1 week. If I get hit, I got no credit either. And I make a good living. I have a great job. But life from the crash, divorces, child support, you name it, has made my great job basically pay like I'm flipping burgers at McDonald's. And that story of mine, which I'm not belly aching about, I'm using as a point of reference, is shared by millions and millions of other Americans who are suffering mightily as well. I used to say we're all one decision away, one business decision away from destitution. But like somebody just said, we're one illness away from losing our jobs and losing our homes. And yet people are still running around talking about Cheetolini. People are still talking about the orange man with the bad comb over. People are still running around talking about Russians. People are still fighting alternative media outlet versus alternative media outlet instead of talking about a new deal. They think they're clever. They think they're doing something cute. And sadly, you look at the likes on their posts, people really like that kind of bullshit. Not saving anybody's life, not getting a single payer. It's not getting student debt eradicated. It's getting a lot of likes, though. A lot of pats on the back. Whew. It's depressing for me. You know, I talked earlier today to a friend, and I said, you know what? If real progressives can't pull this off, if we can't make folks wake up and each one teach one and start really, really formulating massive pushes, state by state, location by location, if we allow lesser knowledgeable individuals who don't understand economics, so they stay away from it, so they sideline you with a bunch of identity politics because that's accessible. If we allow that to happen, there will be no New Deal. You will not receive a New Deal, and you will not have your student debt relief. You will not have single payer, and you will be back to struggling even more. Do you know there's a federal hiring freeze right now? Why? Why is there a DOD? Why is there a hiring freeze? Except for cyber jobs. Cybersecurity jobs are still open. The rest of the civilian jobs, they're on hold. There's a freeze. Why do you suppose that is? It's not like the federal government's going broke. And if there are people out there applying for these jobs, then that means there's a need for people to work. Why do you suppose a nation that creates its own money is doing that? I can tell you why. The goal is to keep us desperate. And we're playing right into it. We're playing right into it. And our alternative media is doing no favors for it. They just play the standard lines, the standard bumper sticker tweets. Ask yourself when Jimmy Dore had Stephanie Kelton on. Ask yourself when Lee Camp had Stephanie Kelton on. Ask yourself when Tim Black had Stephanie Kelton on. Ask yourself when TYT had Stephanie Kelton on. Ask yourself when Jordan had Stephanie Kelton on TYT Politics. Ask when any of these individuals have done this. Ask Chris Hedges why he hasn't interviewed Stephanie Kelton. Stephanie's a busy lady, but there's tons of us. And if people don't like me, they don't want to tip their hat, I don't give a shit. I want our kids to survive. It's time for you all to get up in arms and ransack these alternative media pages, their inboxes, their phones, and get them to focus on modern monetary theory and get their asses worrying about a new deal and to stop sidelining us with bullshit. It is the only way we win. Otherwise, we may as well stop doing this. I start going swimming. I'll start watching frickin' sports again. Just kick back with the fucking remote. Because there's no point in fighting if we can't get our team to actually give a flying fuck. I'm dead serious, folks. Our movement is a joke if we aren't actually fighting for something. Resisting Trump is not a progressive agenda. It may be part of the normal actions that we as progressives and awake people should do, but it's also giving false cover to the Democrats, like they're somehow or another doing better. Let me tell you, the Democrats are neoliberalism with a kiss. The Republicans are simply neoliberalism with a friggin' forehand shiver right to your jaw. The Democrats are neoliberalism with a kiss on the cheek and a knife in the back. And when you see these people running for office, all these new candidates, if they can't be bothered to learn MMT, are they really worth voting for? Are they worth supporting? If they can't enforce and fight for a new deal, what are you supporting them for? What are they going to do for you? What are they going to do for us? I mean, seriously, think about it. For Catherine, who's trying to talk about, what I went through, I'm fine. I'll get through. I have a good job. So the issue isn't about me. The issue is about the people who are not there yet, who are suffering still, but don't understand this stuff. And there's too many of you all out there that literally don't do anything with this knowledge. You get it, it's given to you, and you do nothing with it but sit there and poke holes in the thing. I'm going to pop some of the, like the bubble wrap. You're like popping. That's your idea of revolution. Well, let me go ahead and see if I can poke holes in this shit. Go to your state houses. Go to your local Congress critters. Go to all your local officials. Go to everyone and talk about this. Talk about it. Because no one else is going to. No one else is going to if you don't. And you can look in the mirror sometime and say, God, I really didn't do shit with it, did I? I guess it kind of falls when this happened. Damn Hillary! Oh, no, hold on. I didn't do anything, did I? Oh, shit. So I guess it's on me, right? That's the way I view it. That's why I don't focus too much on the Republicans. Because our own movement isn't doing shit. Until our movement steps up, why focus on anyone else? I don't expect them to fight for it. I do expect us to. I find it amazing. I look around and I don't see anyone else sharing their life story and sharing the things that are going on that led them to these things, led them to the understandings. And then when someone does, to try and bring it, to make it personal so people understand this is not some academic exercise, they would rather focus on, well, maybe you could budget differently. Or, hey, your story, whatever, and then they poke holes in it. Fuck you. Really, seriously, fuck you. It's really a matter of trying to save lives. You shouldn't have to go through all the suffering, is the point. We don't have time to wait for everybody to lose their job. We don't have time to wait for everybody to get cancer. We don't have time to wait for the next iceberg to break off. We don't have time for the next war to break out to distract us. We don't have time to wait for the next mass shooting to distract us. We don't have time. We don't have time. Anyway, I'm Steve Grumbine with Real Progressives. We're going to keep doing this day in and day out. We're going to fight like mad to try and get a new deal through. We're going to hope that people don't require suffering, that they can live vicariously through others' suffering and say, that's enough suffering for me. I don't require additional. I'm going to fight today to end that. That's what I'm hoping out of this progressive movement. But instead, I see a lot of people going around saying Cheetolini. What a shame. Steve Grumbine with Real Progressives. Have a good night.